Welcome to the Sports Trigger. I'm Jared with my co-host Travis.
Here to ignite your day.
Welcome back to the Sports Trigger for another episode on our podcast. And today, Travis, we're going to be talking about hockey and why does it not get all the love that all the other sports seem to be getting. So, just with your first take, why does hockey not get the same love, whether it's from broadcast shows or just live TV in general, like basketball, NFL, and even golf sometimes?
Jared, that's a great question, really, and I'm kind of surprised that more people don't talk about the gap between viewership in hockey, or at least relevance in terms of fans. And for me, I think it plays a huge role in I think people don't take it as their own. I think, you have baseball, you have football, and those two major sports people think of nationally. And I think growing up, that's what we're accustomed to playing. And I think hockey, people think wintertime. They don't think year round like all these other different things have, because it just doesn't seem like it correlates with them as much.
Right. So I think part of the issue that you have with hockey in general is if you're going to play ice hockey, so I know you can play street hockey and everything, but it's something that you have to have your parents or someone usually, pick you up and take you over to the rink, right? So it's not like something, I want to go play hockey today, or I want to go skate around. It's not something easily and readily available for younger individuals. So, that's when sports popularity are really built up is, in the actual youth ages. So that's one huge issue that they have is just being able to get to an ice skating rink, outside of Minnesota in some of the colder months up north. Down here in the South, where I am right now, Florida, you're never going to be able to just walk outside your door to a pond and everything's going to be frozen. So I think that's one big issue. The other issue that I'm going to posit with you, and it's kind of ironic because, everybody in America, they're like, football, action sports, basketball is up and down. And I love both of those sports and I see that. But out of those three sports, hockey's probably the most back and forth, up and down, action-packed game. Now, the scoring doesn't always add up, but you're getting a lot more, movement up and down the rink, actually, and you're getting a lot of, different hits, you're getting checks, you're getting some fights in there. So I don't really get where, why when America is so into action sports and wanting to see action, that hockey's kind of lost in the fray.
Yeah, and the way I look at it too, when I thought about this topic, was when you're taking not necessarily a cross-country trip, but say you're going from state to state, right? And so when I'm driving, what do you typically see from state to state? What's common? You see baseball fields, you see football fields, you see hoops in different people's driveways. And I just think that plays into it as well, like we were talking about earlier. And it doesn't make sense because it is nonstop action. And, people in America love violence. They love hits. Obviously, they love football. Maybe not so much NBA because that's kind of become a little bit weaker as far as physicality. But hockey it's nonstop. Like you said, there may not be scoring like in other sports, but at the same time, it's not like there's many breaks in there, obviously, between periods, but in every sport, there's a break just like hockey. And really, I think it should be more relevant than we see it today. And I think there's an upswing as far as coverage on ESPN and stuff. But as far as outside of ESPN, you just don't hear about it that often. And it really doesn't make sense to me.
Right, and I think they had a little issue there with signing contracts and broadcasting rights over to, I think it was NBC Sports Network, and that just didn't pan out compared to ESPN, obviously, being the behemoth in sports. But, I think another issue that they really run into is, when I'm watching it, until I actually moved up to Minnesota and lived there for 6 years, I didn't really understand all the rules. And that's going from icing
Right.
all the way to slashing. You know, I could somehow make that out. You know, being in the crease. It just, some of the main rules and the intricacies of the actual game, you know, I really didn't understand it. And I feel like that's a big issue with a lot of people because a lot of these individuals didn't grow up playing hockey. They didn't just walk outside and, you know, start skating around, and even if they went out and skating around, they're just playing around, so they're not learning the rules. So, you know, and if you don't understand a game or a sport, a lot of times people aren't going to tune in as often. Because if you didn't understand football, what would you tune in as much? You'd be confused the whole time.
Exactly, and going along with your point, kids are brought up. It depends really based on their parents. So if parents are used to baseball, football, basketball, they're not going to be thinking about hockey unless maybe there's a new rink that came into their area. Or if you're not in a Minnesota, then it's just not something that's going to come across their mind. So it's just going to keep carrying on from generation to generation, and it's not going to get pushed out as much until really I think more arenas are built in different areas or people understand, as you stated, the rules. And in any sport, you have to take time in order to understand the rules. It's not like you just watch a football game and you see a flag thrown up and someone says holding or clipping for that matter. People don't know what clipping means until it's explained to them. So for hockey, people need to give it more of a chance because you have to understand it just like you have to any other sport.
Yeah, and they've been changing the rules to make it more up and down too. So, you know, the way it was explained to me, if I would go back and watch hockey, you know, 20 years ago, which I actually used to watch Colorado Avalanche and Detroit Red Wings go at it all the time, and then move to now, the game pace would be a lot quicker, and the NHL is doing that to try and, you know, boost up ratings and everything. And I've found lately, and especially when I was up in Minnesota, it's a very enjoyable game to watch. I can't go out and play it, but I still enjoy watching it, and heck, I love playing NHL hockey games on PS3 as well, PS4. So with all that being said today, thanks a lot for listening to our topic on hockey and why we think it should be getting a little more love. If you get a chance, please watch some hockey and try and get an explanation on the rules.